Hello, guys. Welcome to the Arseholics. How's it going, Aaron?
Yeah. I was feeling pretty down about life until I saw what our co-host was up to.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go to Raj. Raj doesn't look like you're in South London, mate.
I'm in the Caribbean, lads.
Oh well.
I might not have mentioned it before, but no,
First time hearing of it now.
Yeah, no, like I'm here. I landed on Friday. I landed just before kickoff, and I really wanted to watch the game. But there was a massive queue at the airport. They were checking everyone's PCR tests and all this kind of stuff. And I missed the whole game. But you know, it feels like that was probably a good thing, considering how like ridiculously rubbish it sounds like we were.
Yeah.
Miles, for the podcast listeners who don't have the privilege of seeing Raj's outfit,
attire or lack of attire,
I think you should describe
me
it.
To describe it.
Yeah.
So Raj is I mean, why don't you describe it? You describe it, Raj.
I haven't got any top. I haven't got a top on. So I've got a hat on. I've got sunglasses. Look, I'm in Antigua. I'm out of an all-inclusive resort. It's It's like 4 p.m. Yeah, it's like 4:20 p.m. here. The bar opened at 10:30 a.m. So I've been drinking for a while. So I'm pretty hammered, listeners. To be honest,
Good.
I'm pretty shattered. I'm pretty bad. And I'm holding up my glass right now. It is some kind of rum cocktail. I think there's like some guava going on in there. And basically I after this session I'm going to apparently renew the vows of some couple who I agreed to do in a drunken state yesterday. It's to be honest, it's all going on. And in all this time, I've just not found time to find a t-shirt, so I'm topless during this show.
So not only are you naked and a little bit drunk, you're also
wasted.
Haven't seen the game.
I haven't seen the game. I'm not adding much value to it. But no, the thing is, I feel like I am going to be able to provide some kind of perspective, because the thing is, like, genuinely, like, so I've not seen the game, but I was at the airport, like refreshing, so anxious, and seeing you guys message like kind of, little comments or whatever, and seeing on Twitter. I mean, you guys expand. I mean, what I saw from your messages and from Twitter was just, this was an absolute car crash.
Yeah.
I think that's fairly accurate. Wouldn't you say, Wes?
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't confident going into the game. I predicted a draw, and I think I was being slightly optimistic when I predicted that draw, and I think a lot of us could see this coming. Like, I know you guys predicted wins, but I don't know how confident you actually were of that happening. And it was very similar to performances we've seen from Arsenal first half of last season and prior to that. So many things wrong, kind of all the same issues that we've seen before. A lot of things that we've clearly identified as problems that we knew we were going to have if we didn't do what we needed to do in the transfer market. The concern I've got, and I think because it's been a couple of days since we played, right? It's probably worth us kind of skipping all of or maybe we could talk about it later, but skipping all of the kind of like in terms of match specifics and what happened. And I wanted to kind of just talk about what's actually going to happen in going forward in terms of Arteta, in terms of this group of players, because I mean, there were just so many things wrong, and I wonder, and I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans are wondering, you guys must be wondering, kind of where we're going to be, let's say October time, end of September, October time after the international breaks. Because when I was watching that game on Friday, it was pretty damning on Arteta in terms of a lot of the problems that we had last season don't seem to have been fixed. I know it's only one game, but you've got to take into account, although it was a kind of a tough atmosphere, and Brentford were well up for it, and fans were back, and all of these things that were kind of against us. Despite all of that, this team just didn't turn up again. They just didn't turn up again, and there was lack of urgency. It was passive, and a lot of that now has to come down to Arteta. Like, when you go and spend £50 million on a centre back, a new central midfielder started, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like he's under serious pressure now, and I'm concerned as to where this team is going under Arteta, because, like I said, a lot of the problems that we've seen before haven't really been sorted in the summer based on that last game. And yeah, I was keen to start the conversation off really with just by understanding, like, what do you guys think in terms of Arteta's future? Not even his future, but where does this defeat leave him? Because we've been talking about it, right, on WhatsApp, but another couple of defeats, and it's massive pressure. It's not just, okay, he can turn this around. It's almost like, yeah, he's probably on the verge of being sacked. He's the bookies' favorite to be sacked now. And he was third or fourth favorite at the start of the season, or basically 2-3 days ago. So yeah, I'm just massively concerned. Defensive issues, mistakes, and going forward again, it's that lack of creativity. I know we were missing Aubameyang and Lacazette, but I'm not really sure how much of a difference they would have made. Like, Balogun didn't really get much of a sniff. I'm not sure how much Aubameyang would have made a difference in a game like yesterday. And yeah, just like you said, Raj, just there's a bit of a calamity, really. All sorts of things wrong, and we could pick it apart. But I'm more interested in kind of what's going to happen from now, and where does Arteta go from here?
I'm putting the question back to you guys, obviously, as not watching the game. When I looked at the team and I saw that it felt like at the 11th hour, something really bizarre must have happened with regards to Lacazette and Aubameyang. Both out of the team almost at the last minute. Eddie, it sounds like he got injured. So from watching the game, how much do you think that was it that we were just genuinely affected by the almost random, very kind of last minute absence of those three players?
It has to have had an effect. You can't. Ultimately, we ended up playing Balogun, and that was his first ever Premier League start, his first ever Premier League minutes that he's had. We played Martinelli, who's just come back from Japan. And then, yeah, so that has to have had an effect. When I first saw the team news, I mean, this probably says more about the two players that are sick. And it sounds like it's probably COVID. What I'm reading between the lines, it sounds like they've got COVID, but who knows? When I first heard, I was actually like, oh, well, this isn't actually the biggest loss in the world, because we get to see Balogun, we get to see Martinelli, or whoever, and it was new and different. And I think that's the reason I'm frustrated. And I think a lot of people are frustrated as well. Over the summer, we were promised a radical overhaul of the team. We promised investment, which, to be fair, we have seen from a financial point of view, investment, because we've spent over 100 million this summer or so. But we were promised something new, something different. And it was a recognition that last season, because of COVID and mistakes were made at the start of the first half of that season, we finished at 8th. That wasn't acceptable. And the club had all summer to prepare for this game. Everyone knew what the atmosphere would be like. Everyone knew how Brentford would play. They haven't really changed their team significantly over the summer. The atmosphere, Raj, you weren't there, you didn't watch the game, but if you imagine, it's probably exactly in your head. The game worked out exactly in your head as you can imagine it to, because Brentford played as you would imagine them to, full of energy. Their crowd were well up for it. And we played as you could imagine us playing, which is with not much intensity, the same tactics which we've seen have very limited effectiveness. And I think that was a frustration, is that, when we were promised something new, what we got was very much more of the same. And if Arteta knows that last season wasn't good enough, he knew he had to do something different. He's had the summer alongside Edu and Vinay and whoever else was in charge to do something different. Yet what we get is Granit Xhaka leading the team out. We get the same sort of football. We get the same sort of problems. And we can go through the squad, but, all throughout the pitch, in goal, in defence, midfield, and attack probably wasn't the attackers on the pitch weren't the problem as such, but the way we attacked was all sorts of, we've been here before, this is the same. And that's not a feeling you want on the first game of the season. You want something new, something to get excited about. You want hope. And like Maya said, when we at full time, it left everyone feeling, okay, where do we go from here? What is this season actually going to be like? It's just going to be quite painful, and it's really, really hard. And we're probably quite optimistic fans, I think, the three of us, but it's really, really hard to take positives from what we saw, coupled with, I don't know if you watch preseason, but a very, very poor preseason as well. And it just continued on from there.
Aaron, I was just going to ask you a question, or just on one of the points you made, right? So you mentioned about Aubameyang and Lacazette, and they are big misses, obviously, right? They obviously are big misses. And I think I touched on it. Like, it has an effect, it has an impact. But do you think if you put Aubameyang ahead, if you put Aubameyang into that team that started instead of Balogun, for example, do you think the result's any different?
I actually do. And initially, I don't. Put it this way, I think we would have had more of a chance. However, I've seen this Arsenal team with Lacazette, with Aubameyang, put similar performances in. So it's one of those. However, you look at Balogun, he really, really struggled. And fair play to him. It's his first start, but he got knocked about quite a bit. And it looked like a young player making their first Premier League start.
But it wasn't a game where, I know we had like 22 shots, but I think it was a very small number. Actually, I'm talking actually good chances. It was a very small number. And it wasn't a game where there were that many clear-cut chances. We had that many openings where you'd say Aubameyang would have gotten to the end of something. And like, I completely agree. It would have had an effect. I don't want to labour on the point too much, but I don't know. I think there's so many other things wrong that missing those two players. I think Lacazette is a bigger miss than Aubameyang because of what Lacazette offers in terms of dropping deep, and he can play as a number 10. And we obviously don't have a number 10 at the moment, apart from what Smith Rowe is doing and all the rest of it, all the conversations with everyone's had before. But I completely agree with you. Balogun was almost thrown into the deep end a bit too early. And we struggled, and he struggled as a result. But I don't think the result would have been different if you'd have put Aubameyang into that.
I can see us dropping that exact same performance with both those in the team. Yeah. However, if you look at it, and I feel like I'm making excuses, but I'm not. But we didn't have Aubameyang, we didn't have Lacazette, we didn't have Partey, we didn't have Gabriel. I don't know if anyone else was missing, and that's quite a key. Like the whole spine of the team, to a certain extent, was weaker. So that's no excuse. I still think the team we put out probably should have enough to beat Brentford, but you add those 4 or 5 players back in, and we at least make more of a game of it.
And I suppose that he knew that Partey was injured, so we would have prepared accordingly. But I guess what we don't know, and what we might never know, is how exactly last minute was this Auba and Laca kind of
apparently
illness.
he was in training on Thursday.
I do not believe that they're both. I mean, look, if it's COVID, then wouldn't they have to declare that? I don't know.
So
and surely there would be other players that would have to isolate or whatever.
So apparently Rennison's also out, but obviously
I just feel like this is kind of like when Aubameyang was late for the North London derby, and kind of the Ozil situation. I don't want to go into all of this. Guendouzi. There's loads of players where Arteta's clearly shown he's, it's either my way or piss off, basically. And I just get the feeling there's something else that's happened. So it just seems quite like it's very weird. And even when Arteta was asked about it pre-match on Sky Sports, he was like, the words he used were something like, they're unwell.
That's all I can say.
That's all I can say. Yeah. And, if it was COVID, you would just, why would you open it? Why would you allow the fans and the media and everyone, the media aren't really talking about it, it's probably the fans, to even have that question in their heads as to what else has happened, if it is COVID or isn't COVID. Do you know what I mean?
Two things. So one, I think with COVID, I think we've in the past been quite limited about what we disclose about which players have got COVID, because obviously it's health. And the other reason I think it's COVID is because I can't remember if it was Chris Wheatley or one of the journalists said that they're both going to be out for Chelsea. So I kind of like, the only way that someone's going to be ill in a week's time is if it's COVID.
That's if you believe that they're ill, though, mate, and it's not a disciplinary thing.
I don't know.
Because I think Arteta is willing.
But...
I think Arteta seems like the kind of manager who is happy, not happy, but he's willing to almost lay down the law, even if it means half the first team don't play and we suffer as a result, as long as he's laying down the law and he's setting that example and he's almost telling the rest of the squad, if you guys do this, then you're not going to play either. I think he's that, what's the word? That much of a disciplinarian.
I think I agree with you. I think he is. I just think in this, do you remember like last season where there were people speculating that Aubameyang had some issue and then it turned out that he basically had malaria or something. And there was a period where he was missing and then retrospectively we found out he had malaria or something like that. I put it this way, until we know or we hear more, I'm fairly confident they're out with some kind of COVID related incident. But I mean, it's possible.
I'm going to lean towards what I think maybe Mize is hypothesizing. I just can't believe, Aaron, in that at the 11th hour, these two guys have both randomly tested positive for COVID.
Both of them as well. I mean,
both of them, you know what I mean? And like, I think there's something fishier about it. And I think the way that, I don't, I know it's not good. Whatever it is, it's really not good. You know, like, so I hope it's genuine. I hope that they both genuinely rocked up like, boss, we're really ill. We're genuinely ill. Like, it's, I hope that's the thing. But come on, it's such a coincidence. It just feels, and then I sort of think that like maybe at the 11th hour, if you're missing two of those players and you've got a bunch of players who have to come in who probably, Martinelli he's probably still kind of coming off the euphoria of winning an Olympic gold medal, like, not that long ago. Your Saka is not ready yet. Balogun probably had no bloody idea, no inclination that he was going to get minutes. And I wonder if it was just a complete, just lack of preparation in the lineup that ended up starting.
So ultimately, I don't think you can say adding Aubameyang and Lacazette into that 11 wouldn't have made us better, because undoubtedly it would have. Would it have been enough? I don't know. Would we have maybe created one more chance? Because ultimately, in the league, it's not really about kind of how well you play nowadays. I feel like it's very much about who makes the least amount of mistakes defending and who takes their chances and can finish in the penalty box. So that's what most games are nowadays. And there were periods of play where we were probably better than they were moving the ball around, but we made two defensive errors. They didn't really make any. And when we got in the box, we couldn't even really get into the box, but when we did get in the box, we didn't do anywhere near enough.
You mentioned, or you touched on the defensive mistakes. I mean, the first goal, yourself and me and you, Aaron, had a long chat about this one. Who was really at fault? I think I've actually watched it a few times since it happened, like over the weekend, and I was very much, that was Callum Chambers' mistake in terms of, yes, he's kind of late getting to the player. Canas, is it Canas? Who scores? Something like that.
Canos, yeah.
Canos, sorry.
It's quite funny because I kept thinking they were saying Thanos. No,
and in that case, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still feel like he could have done more. Like he just, like I said, he doesn't really engage. And ideally, you want your defender there to show him down the line. Try to show him down the line. He doesn't really do that, and he kind of stands off him, and he allows him to shoot. The shot is very, very good, and I was defending Leno a lot, like during the game on that particular incident. I think watching it back, he maybe, I don't know, it's a hard one. But it's like the Pepe chance in the second half where I think Smith Rowe-Saka pulls it back and he hits it first time, and he hits an amazing shot first time with his left foot. And Raya gets down really quickly, he saves it. And I know he's completely sighted as opposed to Leno being a little bit unsighted where there's defenders in front of him. So maybe it's a bit trickier, but it's one of those where he could, I don't know, maybe he can get down a bit quicker, but it's a really good shot. So I just feel like Chambers could have done a bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think my ultimate conclusion is with that, I think a top right back doesn't let that happen.
Yeah,
but also a top goalkeeper probably saves it too. In that, so it's both. I mean, like, I think, yeah, you're right. If we had an elite level right back, they either get to. So I think my argument was Chambers was probably struggling to get there, and when he got there, he was just really out of position.
If it happens on the other side, do you think Tierney would stop it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Tierney gets there quick. I don't know. I mean, either way, I think it's a struggle, but then I think maybe a quicker right back maybe gets there, and then a quicker right back probably just has that composure to either just delay him for that split second longer to make him, to give Leno a better chance of saving it. But I do think a top level goalkeeper also probably keeps it out. I'm like, it would have been a very good save if he had saved it.
It would have been a very, very good save.
Ultimately, the best keepers make top saves like that as well. And I think there's a wider discussion we can have about Leno, because I think wherever Leno is in his, I don't know what's going on. It sounds like something is going on at Arsenal with our goalkeeper. And I think Leno on top form probably makes that save, but Leno isn't on form at the moment. I don't think he's been for a while.
Yeah, we could have that discussion, couldn't we? But let's talk about the second goal as well, because again, defensive mistakes probably more so. And again, Aaron and you and I were having this big debate about should it have been given as a foul against Leno or not. I was kind of the view that he is probably fouling him. I'm not denying that, but my point was that happens. I feel that happens. That kind of holding, grappling, doing it behind your back or doing it behind where the referee can't see, whatever. All of that kind of stuff happens in and around the box, like from corners, from set pieces, pretty much every game. I think it happens less now than it did, say, like 10 years ago, because of VAR, because of, referees are watching out for it, especially from corners. But it still happens. And I think it's almost like Leno just allows it to happen. And that's my frustration. Like, he allows himself to be bullied. And again, it's this whole thing about like the mentality, and it's, the kind of the leadership thing where why are you allowing that's probably going to happen. And you're in a dangerous situation. The ball's coming into the box. The defenders haven't cleared it. And you're not really, like, he didn't do anything. He didn't even try to push him off. I'm not saying be aggressive in the sense foul him, but you should be more aggressive to push him away from you or whatever. And he doesn't do anything. And Leno just kind of allows himself to be held. And then the ball's, comes across, it bounces. And then defenders are poor as well. But I'm not blaming Leno for it in that sense. I don't think the goal, the reason the goal goes in isn't necessarily down to him. It's down to a number of things just not happening in terms of us defending it well. But I don't know. We had that debate, right?
So I do think it was a foul, but I think you're also right in that
happens.
Leno shouldn't really let that happen to him. So he could have done a couple of things. So he probably could have pushed him off, although, and I just think Leno generally isn't the most dominating keeper in the box.
He's not.
Or he could have just gone down. Like,
it's a risky one, isn't it? If you go down, you're
but I think generally,
on the ref.
But if your keeper goes down there,
referees play.
They normally
play.
They do.
Referees.
That's what I'm saying. It was quite naive on his part.
It was very naive. That said, it would have been nice if the referee had spotted it and done us a favor. But you're right. Sometimes it gets given, sometimes it doesn't. But I also thought it was actually a very, very good set piece by Brentford, because the way, because I watched it so many times trying to work out if it was a foul or not. But the guy who was in front of Leno holding him, he moves in front of Leno really, really late because he's standing outside. He's got ages of space.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then he goes on top of him, basically very, very late, almost as soon as the throws come in. And that had to happen. And then the throw had to be perfectly in position to block off Leno, because if that throw is slightly wider, then another defender clears it. So it's a really good throw. It's really good movement. But ultimately, we should have been prepared for it. And the way it went in, it just looks so amateur.
Tierney's he's been doubled up at the back, so I don't know who it was. Is it Xhaka? I'm not pointing the finger at Xhaka because I can't actually remember. But we were marking the two guys at the back post, and Tierney ends up having to sort of deal with both of them and gets absolutely nowhere near either. But yeah, it's just really sloppy. And they, you know, if the balls had enough time to travel into the box and bounce, someone's just got to come in there and clean it up and just deal with it. And if you look at certain other teams in the Premier League, don't even have to be the best teams, but you know, centre backs that just scream at the players around them in the box to like do something with it, or they just go in there and stick everything, like stick their head, stick their body in the way to get it out. Like there's no one in our team that's willing to do that generally. Like there probably are on occasion, but if you go across the season, it just, you know, and it's just really, I mean, it comes back to the original thing. We're going full circle, but it's just really worrying that, you know, first game of the season, that's the kind of goal that we've conceded.
I agree. I agree with the first part, in that a top team with top defenders should be dealing with that. Actually, I wasn't too annoyed with the defending in this game. And I think it was annoying because if you're watching on Sky, Jamie Carragher was just being an idiot, basically saying this is typical Arsenal. They don't know how to defend, when all the stats show actually we had one of the better defenses in the league last season. So we do know how to defend, and we have been defending set plays very, very well over the last couple of years, I think. And we, as a defensive team, have been okay. But we do make mistakes. But mistakes happen. All defenders and all teams do make defensive mistakes. So that kind of annoyed me, because I don't think the story of the game was our poor defensive mistakes. Because the first one, it was a defensive mistake, but it was also a very good finish. The second one was a very well executed set play, albeit the way it went in looked very amateur. What I was really annoyed about was the other end of the pitch, which was we were just so ineffective in attack. We apparently created like 20 chances and had created the most amount of chances we have without scoring. But
shots, wasn't it? It's like 20.
Yeah, something like that. But they were all, except that one, that Pepe one at the end, they were all so ineffective, so weak. And the way we build up our attacks was just so one-dimensional. It just seemed like the only way we were trying to score was by getting Tierney in behind and then hoping he could deliver well. And he, you know, although I think he played well, his ultimate deliveries weren't great, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And it's a tactic that makes sense, but it's not like we have the player, you know, we're not getting the right number of players into the box, and we probably don't have the right personnel for that sort of tactic to work if you're going to try that throughout the game. I mean, and just to touch on your point, Aaron, and about, like, you know, the attacking phase or the attacking side of the game is what disappointed you the most. I mean, I agree. I do agree. And it's kind of like where I think someone said it in our WhatsApp group, might have been you, Aaron, but like, it's just not fun anymore watching us. Generally, if you take it across the course of a season, it's not fun anymore. We might get the odd like really, really good win, or, you know, we bang 3 or 4 past team. I don't even know if that happens that much anymore. But it's just like, what are we watching in terms of attacking play? As in, when I say attacking play, I mean, you know, pass and move, you know, 1-2s, players taking a chance. Like the only players that really take a chance, Saka came on, he does it, Smith Rowe does it, and Pepe. There's probably the only players that really kind of look forward. I tweeted it, and a few other people tweeted it, but there was a still, you probably spotted it during the game, there was a still of a passage of play. We had the ball, Xhaka picks it up, and he's probably like 40 yards from goal, and they pause it at the point where he has the decision of who to pass to, and I think it's Pepe who's basically through on goal if he chooses to make that pass, and he's got the very safe pass of going out to Tierney left, and the pass through on goal to Pepe is not a difficult pass.
It was Martinelli that was in goal.
Martinelli. Yeah, you're right, Martinelli. Yeah. And he goes out to Tierney, and I appreciate that's the tactic, and that's maybe what Arteta's telling him to do. But it's kind of like, oh my god, like, do you know what I mean? Like, this is what
frustrates me. What is the attack? Like, what does Arteta want from this attack? Like, what is he? Is that,
I'm just doing I think I saw a stat where I think Martinelli and Tierney passed to each other 3 times during the game.
Martinelli
So
was pretty
actually,
anonymous, to be fair. I'm not blaming him, but he was pretty quiet throughout the game.
So Lewis, I think it's Lewis Ambrose on Arsblog did a really good article on Sunday, basically saying that the key to getting the best out of Tierney is to have someone who can draw defenders, so go out wide, but then also draw defenders away so that Tierney has the space to run into. But basically analysing that when Martinelli was on the pitch, they were either way too close to each other or way too apart from each other, and the link up just didn't work. Whereas when Saka came on, he really allowed Tierney to get into really good territory. But then, Martinelli is capable of just staying out wide if he needs to, but it seemed like the instruction was for Martinelli to drift inside and Balogun to drop a bit deeper. And that just didn't work for 60, 65 minutes. And then we took Martinelli off. That's why I'm a bit concerned, which is why, what are the attacking plays that Arteta wants us to do? And is this what he really wants us to do? And is this how he wants us to attack? And are we just not executing it well? Because actually then I do have concerns, because we could all see that this isn't a successful blueprint for winning matches. But then the other half of me thinks, is Arteta just trying to implement something that is so far ahead of what our players are capable of? Is he trying to implement Man City, positions of play, positional play, and the types of interchange that Man City can play, but are trying to do it with so many players that just aren't suited to that type of football?
It's almost been 2 years, right? So if that's what the plan is, surely he would have identified by now that it's just not going to work with this group of players. I would like to think that he would have realized that and tried something different. It's his job on the line at the end of the day. It's his reputation. It's his first managerial job, all of that. I don't see why he would persist with something. I get what you're saying. But I don't know. It's not like he's just this is his first ever game, or he's only been there for 6 months. It's been it is almost 2 years, right? It'll be 2 years in November or whatever. So I don't know. I'd be very surprised if that's his mentality.
It just feels very theoretical when we attack, in that the players are being coached. In an ideal world, you move this defender here, the fullback goes out wide, someone makes a run, you cross and you score, and that's great. But A, we don't have the players capable of that. B, it doesn't seem that's not the only way you score goals, but it just seems like the team are being coached that way, and that's what really concerns me. Is that this, like you said, it's been 2 years, and for whatever reason, this attack isn't working. And at the same time, the defenders are also making silly mistakes at the back, and we're losing games. And what worries me is that how does that change? There's two ways it changes. Either the manager changes tactics and does something different, or we get the players needed to play that type of football. And both right now seem incredibly unlikely to happen in the next 2 weeks.
And here's where I worry about, I think we all desperately want Arteta to succeed. I think we all are, really, we're not Arteta out people. We're not anyone out people. No. We want whoever's the manager to be successful. And, if you look at what happened in the French league this weekend, and you had Gaultier, who managed Lille and won the title with Lille, beating all the expectations, and he's gone to Nice. And he's now Nice manager. Nice have just played Lille, the champions, and he's beaten them 4-0 away with Nice, who are a middle table team. And sometimes you look at that, and I go, are we expecting too much from a guy who's just not experienced enough to understand how to adapt to a different set of players? And he's used to the Man City collegiate. He wasn't manager of Man City, but he's used to that quality of player. And do we need a manager who is capable and proven of taking a bunch of players who might not be the top level players yet, and getting a lot out of that. And if you look at Gaultier and what he just did, battering his team 4-0 away, in such a short space of time, I wonder. It's big. I mean, Arteta has to now. He's got nowhere to hide anymore, right? Like him and Edu have been working on transfer strategy for how many 4 windows now. We've not signed an attacking player. We've had Willian on a free. We've had Odegaard on loan. We had Ceballos on loan. That's as far as our attacking kind of signings have gone. We are opening day of this season. We lost 2-0. It's time. He's really got to do some soul searching and really figure out whether he can do this. I'm not saying, no manager's going to go and say, hey, listen, by the way, I resign. I'm not good enough to do this. But I think, like you guys are alluding to, can he do what he's trying to do with this group of players, or does he need to change?
Yeah. I mean, I was just going to ask on that, how long do you think he's going to be given? Like fixtures coming up, at Chelsea at home, City away. In between that, we've got a League Cup game, Norwich at home, Burnley away, Spurs at home. And then we go into October, so Brighton away. I mean, and I think there's a couple of international breaks in there as well. How many not so much how many games, but like in terms of those 5 or 6 games, what would need to happen? I'm not saying I want him to be sacked. What would have to happen in order for him to be sacked? I'm not saying that that's what I want, but you know what I mean? Like, what's the scenario that would play out? I
think heavy defeats to either Man City or Chelsea, followed by defeat to Tottenham at home, would be the end. Even
if he won the 2 games in between
because I think it all comes down to Tottenham. Because I saw Tottenham today, and I look at their team. Although they won, they've got one really, really good player in Heung-min Son, and let's forget about Kane for a second. I look at their players. I think individually as players, they're not better than us. But if a team like that can come to the Emirates and outplay us, then
they look like a team today. They didn't.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So if Nuno Espirito Sancho can get get a better team performance out of, in my opinion, a far, far worse bunch of players than Arteta can, having been here for almost 2 years longer, when we're at home. And I think if we lose to Spurs, that is a big, big concern. Unless we've somehow managed to beat Man City. If we beat Chelsea, we beat Man City, we beat Norwich, and we beat Burnley, and then we lose to Spurs 1-0, then that's fine. But if we lose to Chelsea, we lose to Man City, and let's assume we scrape wins against, is it Norwich and Burnley, right? And then we go and lose to Spurs. I think the fans will turn. Like a lot have turned, but like the home fans in attendance will turn.
And I think Nuno's laid down the gauntlet in some way, because I think as Arsenal fans, we're quite forgiving, right? When Arsenal play a team that is on paper like, a better team than us, we're quite like, oh yeah, but it's Chelsea. Oh, it's Man City. We weren't meant to beat them. And, Nuno's come in with Tottenham without Harry Kane, and he's just won a game. He's just beaten Man City.
They always seem to get very fortunate against City, because City always seem to dominate and Spurs always seem to win. But I think we should be finishing above Spurs this season comfortably.
I guess my point is, mate, it's like if we lose to City and Chelsea, I'm sure a lot of us as faithful Arsenal fans will be like, oh, it's City and it's Chelsea. They're really good. They're so much better than us. But at some point, we probably have to turn around and go, no, like it's not. It's still, first 3 games of the season, and not getting a win against any of these 3 teams. That's just not good enough.
But I agree, it's not good enough. But I don't think he'll be sacked.
If we get
no
battered,
chance we're going to get. Even if we lose 5-0 both games, I don't think we will sack him.
I think because Conte is available, I'd be really surprised if the Arsenal board. I know it's not typical of us to go out and get this big box office manager on big wages, and we know that Conte might come in and he might say I want serious investment or whatever. But I'd just be really surprised if the manager
available. But actually, we have invested seriously.
Yeah, I know, agreed. That's what.
if you tell Conte we'll give you 100 million, like we've given Arteta, I think he'll be okay with that.
Yeah, agreed.
But I don't think this structure will sack Arteta after 3 games. And I'm kind of with him on that. Like, if we probably will lose to Chelsea, we probably will lose to Man City because they are considerably better than us. But they are ultimately they're super clubs that spend considerable more money. So I don't think you can judge.
Well, mate, you say that. I mean, look, I agree. City, 100%, and even Chelsea. If you go probably back 10 years and compare their spending to ours, yes. But if you look at this summer, I mean, I don't obviously Lukaku, right? Fine, 100 million, but they're offsetting that with what 40 odd million for Abraham.
Yeah.
And I don't know who else they bought this summer. I can't even remember. They bought anyone else?
I'm not sure, but
I don't think they have. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just saying it's like you said, we have spent this summer, right? We spent big. We spent pretty big, and we're looking at Odegaard 30, 40, 50 million. We're looking at other players as well. So we're still likely to spend more, and there probably will be outgoing. So net spend and all of that. I know it's not going to be what we thought it was going to be or what we think, but I don't know. I agree with you. They are these kind of like mega rich clubs with money being pumped in, but at the same time, you know, I'm not going, like, we're going on Sunday, right? Or myself and you, Aaron, and I'm not going into that game thinking, yeah, we're definitely going to lose. I'm hopeful that they'll turn up they will turn up having played so badly on Friday, and it's first time in front of a full Emirates for the first time or however long it's been, 18 months or whatever, and they need to put in a performance. They need to get a result. I'm not resigning to the fact that, you know, Chelsea are miles above us, so therefore they're just going to win. The City game's slightly different, even though they lost today, because City are miles above us. You know, they've been the champions like 3 of the last 4 seasons, and you know they're so far ahead of us. It's unreal. But Chelsea weren't last season. You know, even if they have added Lukaku, they weren't, in terms of points anyway, they weren't miles ahead of us. So and we beat them twice last season. I know that doesn't necessarily mean anything for Sunday, but you know, I kind of go into that game with a little bit of optimism and a little bit of hope.
Gents, I'm going to let you guys wrap up. I drunkenly agreed to officiate a wedding now, so I'm gonna run. All right.
Well, before you go, what's your prediction for Sunday?
Oh, mate, I mean, just
are you watching it?
Do you know what? Well, I'll be at a wedding, so I'll be back in the UK, but I'll be at a wedding.
Right, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm flying back in on Saturday. And so do you know what? When we played Chelsea at home last time, we were going through a terrible patch, and we see, and like we pulled out a great result. So I'm not going to say that's going to happen. I just look, instinctively, you might think I'm going to be a fucking stupid thing to say. I think we're going to win 2-1. I know there's very little rationale. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say we're going to win 2-1.
All right. Well,
talk to you guys later.
All right, mate. Have
cool.
a good
All
trip.
Right. Bye, guys. Bye.
Take care, man. Mate, this is a first. 2 of us.
2 of us. What do we do?
I don't know. It's weird. It's really weird. Look, I mean, I know what you were saying. Can you just imagine though, if in 2 games' time we're sitting on 0 points, probably a really, really bad goal difference?
That's fairly likely.
It's like I don't know. I don't think we'll lose on Sunday. I just think, despite all the kind of negative things I've said, and not negative things, but you know what I mean, like all the kind of criticism we throw at these players and this team, and Arteta's kind of, you know, we're questioning Arteta. I just feel like, you know, like I said, first home game, like the Brighton game was a home game with fans, but you know, full capacity. London derby, you know, so kind of there's a rivalry there with Chelsea, all the rest of it. It's a big game. I'm hopeful, maybe being a bit silly, but also hopeful that they will put in a performance like they did quite a bit last season in some of the bigger games. They did do that last season, these players. I
was just hopeful on Friday. I was like, well, but all summer, you know, it's not a COVID season.
Mate, was that hopeful in terms of just? I know we've talked about the Brentford game, but was that hopeful just because it was a new season as opposed to like?
It was hopeful as a new season, but also they're a promoted team. We're the 5th or 6th richest club in the country.
That's clutching, really. But as in, we're just about the 8th best team in the league last season.
Yeah, but
I don't.
In terms of about wages, I think we're probably 5th. Yeah. We should be finishing 5th. With the 5th, we pay the 5th highest wages, probably even the 4th highest wages. It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
we should be aiming to be the 5th best team in this country at least. But so we should be going to places like Brentford and putting them away.
I agree.
It says enough about how low our expectations have fallen that we deep down weren't too surprised by this. But yeah, I was just quite frustrated, and I think, but to go back to your point, I don't think anyone at Arsenal has the bottle to sack Arteta after 3 games.
Even if we get spanked, like
if we get spanked 5-0, then the fan pressure will be unbearable. But I think we then go into international break. It depends what happens in the window. I think if we get someone like Odegaard in, I think we really need another attacking player and a right back, which seem very, very difficult.
And a backup goalkeeper, right?
And a goalkeeper, but backup or even a first team goalkeeper, potentially. We are just so crazy how much work we have to do left in the season, in the window.
It's like what you said, right? Sorry to interrupt. It's like what you said, that you thought that things would go a little bit quiet. We're getting signings that we knew we could get done at the start of the window. Things will go a bit quiet, and then last week or two, it'll be crazy. And that's potentially what is hopefully going to happen.
And if that happens, then I'm willing to accept the kind of trade-off for that is you potentially lose your first 3 games if it means in the long run you build a better team by not having the signings done. Like I'm willing to say, if we can get top quality replacements in and we can sell our players, and the cost of that means, okay, well, it means that we didn't have a number 10 for this game, and we are not going to have a number 10 for the next 2 games, and we're having to play Chambers at right back, but a proper right back is coming, which I don't think it is, then it's okay. But I just think the way we seem to go about it, this whole like Xhaka situation, the way that happened, the goalkeeper situation where we're bidding 30 million for Ramsdale because Leno, either we don't like Leno or Leno doesn't want to stay, maybe a bit of both. That's concerning. And then there's a striker situation where we have 2 strikers who might be sick, might not be sick. Then we have there's a lot of work to do, and I think I don't think we're going to get the right back situation done sorted, because there's we've got 4 right backs now.
Technically we do.
Yeah, because we had a lot of them on the bench, and we brought on Tavares instead.
Yeah, I know, crazy.
So I'm very, very worried. And what would really frustrate me is, I think Ben White's a really good addition, but if signing Ben White has meant that we haven't been able to do more pressing business in our attack, and we just don't have the funds to sign someone like Odegaard, or we don't have the funds to sign a potential striker or right back, that would be really frustrating.
I agree. Do you? I can. Hopefully that's not the case. Hope that's not the case, but I guess we'll find out in a couple of weeks.
What do you think is, if you're Edu now, what is the number 1 position that you prioritize for getting in?
I think if you watched the game, you would have obviously watched the game on Friday. I think it's got to be a creative player, number 10, or has to be number 10. But a creative player, someone who's going to someone who's going to link what seems to be a pretty static, not static, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of like a pretty sideways midfield. I was really impressed with Lokonga on Friday. I really, despite the fact that generally the performance of the team was pretty poor, he kind of stood out as someone who, was happy to pick up the ball. He looked forward. He was passing between the lines, and defensively he seemed to be in the right place at the right time. He was good all around. but he's probably not going to be the answer for 38 league games. But yeah, I mean, that's a separate point. Yeah, I think to answer your question, it has to be an attacking midfielder, number 10. It just has to be someone who's got creativity, who's got the through ball in him, who's got the vision, who's willing to take a risk. You know, he's going to try kind of 3 or 4 of those through balls, and one's going to come off and put Aubameyang in or put Lacazette in. You know, someone who's happy to pick up the ball in tight areas. Like we went from, you know, again, it's kind of going off topic. We went from a few years ago having too many of these number 8s, number 10s, Ramsey, Cazorla, Ozil, Rosicky, Wilshere, like loads I'm probably forgetting, right? And if you go back before that, there was like players like Nasri. There's so many Arshavin. We've gone from having so many under Wenger to having basically none. And now we just need one. We just need one. Hopefully that in, you know, that's what it looks like we need. But yeah.
So if we did sign Odegaard, which
on.
kind of looks like it's happening. I know you can't assume anything, but especially with Arsenal. But would you be pretty happy if we just signed Odegaard and that was it between now and?
I wouldn't be happy. No, I wouldn't be happy. I'd take it. I'd take it in the sense. I'd take it as opposed to signing no one for the next 2 weeks. So in the next 2 weeks, it's probably not enough, because what was our ambition? Like we talked about in the last episode, right? It was like, what have the club said to Arteta is the minimum expectation? I said top 4, I think, and you guys said 5th, right? You and Raj said 5th.
Yeah.
Is that going to be enough to get 5th? Based on this weekend as well, when you look at how well United played, when you look at how well Liverpool played, when you look at City going to come back, right? They're going to be in the top 2 probably, right? Chelsea look really good. Spurs look good today. Leicester, you know, I mean, I'm not basing how the teams are going to finish on 90 minutes, but you know what I mean, right? All of the big boys seem to turn up except for City. And like you guys said, finishing top 4 is going to be very, very tough, because you're displacing one of the, you know, one of those big boys. But
which shows how far we've fallen, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Odegaard's not going to be enough to do that. Like I don't think Odegaard's going to be enough to do it. I know there's players to come back into the first team, injuries and illnesses and whatever the problem is with like the 4 that you named. But I still don't think that would be enough for maybe not even top 5. So I think it was Carragher. I think it was Carragher who said it post game on the right back situation in criticism of Callum Chambers. He basically, I don't know if you heard this. He basically said Callum Chambers is not a right back. He's a centre back who's been converted to right back, and he's the kind of player that you have in your squad that basically what happened last season, where you bring him in the middle of the season when you have an injury to your first choice right back, and he does a job for a few games. He's not the player that you should be starting your season with as right back, and I completely agree.
I agree too.
Yeah, so he's not good enough to be first choice.
So is Maitland-Niles. So is Cedric.
I'd probably say I would have preferred
put in that category.
I'd agree with that. They're both kind of squad players, right? All 3 of them. So Bellerin is probably the best out of that bunch, but he's obviously not in favour, or he's looking for a move, whatever. So right back's another situation that just needs to be addressed really, really quickly. I think there's going to be a lot happening, because I think the players that have got the teams that have got their eyes on players like Nketiah, not Chambers, Maitland-Niles, who the other guy? I mean, Xhaka was one. Nelson, like all these kind of fringe players. I think we're going to be left in a position where we're almost going to have to take whatever we can get for them. And I think it might just end up being a bit of a flurry of activity. I don't know, maybe we'll pull something out of the bag, but it's that question of, do we have the faith in Arteta to kind of deliver with the squad that he ends up with, on the 1st of September? Question I had for you, Aaron, was if we lose on Sunday, right? I don't know how many days that leaves in the window, probably like a week, is it roughly? Something like that. I don't know what the date would be.
I think we play this time next week, so that's 22nd, so we'll have that.
Okay, so we have that week. Do you think if we lose badly on Sunday, do you think the powers that be at the club look at the whole kind of managerial situation and say to themselves, look, let's not give Arteta another 30, 40 million to spend on an Odegaard. Let's not give him another 10, 20 million to spend on a right back. Let's hold those funds back, see how he does with what we've got. If he doesn't turn this around, let's give him the chop, bring in, as Raj was saying, a Conte or whoever, and a guy who's done it and been there and whatever, been there and done it. And then we give him the funds in January. Do you think that's?
No, I think the one good thing I think about our business so far is that we're signing players that will ultimately get better. They're not short-term punts like we did 2 or 3 years ago when we signed Willian and to play in the next 2 seasons. If you're a manager and you're coming in, let's say if the worst happens, you're coming in September or October, players like Tierney, Laconga, even Odegaard, Smith Rowe, Pepe, Saka, they're players that most managers can do things with. And they're players that you can still improve with the right coaching and the right tactics. Players like Aubameyang, Lacazette might be more of a hit or miss with any coach. A new coach might come in and say, actually, like I don't want someone like Aubameyang in my team. I don't want someone like Lacazette in my team. I don't want someone like maybe Partey, for example. He might be more of a riskier signing because he's older, and someone says, actually, this type of midfielder is too slow. I want someone who runs. I don't know. But I think with the younger players, we're building a team regardless of the manager. The issue is who we let go. For example, a new manager might come in and say, actually, I really fancy someone like Joe Willock. And I can build my team around him, but we've sold him. Maybe someone like Maitland-Niles who say, actually, I fancy a utility type person like him in my team. But I don't think there are that many of those players who are at risk of letting go. So this window, I think, if we sign young enough players, then I would expect any manager to come in and be able to work with them. At least that's how I hope the board think about it. But ultimately, I think it's reading between the lines, reading what Vinay and Edu have said. I think it will take a lot to sack Arteta.
It's going to be interesting.
And I hope it doesn't get that bad.
No. I mean, like you said, next couple of games could be quite painful for us, but hopefully he's able to turn it around, and hopefully he's able to, or they're able to get some of the targets.
I almost think the performances matter more than the results with the next 5 or 6.
Do they though, mate? Like,
if we say we drew with Chelsea and
a draw against Chelsea is probably a good result.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. So we get a draw, maybe we lose to City
terribly, but we sneak a draw. Yeah.
Then we play really, really well against Norwich and Burnley, and somehow it all clicks. Then I think even if we lose to Spurs, but even if we lose to Spurs with a bit more of a free-flowing attack, and it's just really unlucky the way we lose for some reason, I think people would forgive that. But if we throw out this same dull, dreary attack, which is quite monotone and quite boring and quite predictable, and even if we beat Norwich and Burnley, I still think if we're not performing well and people aren't enjoying watching Arsenal, that is what will ultimately cost him.
Let's see what happens, eh? So Raj said he thinks we'll win on Sunday 2-1. I think he said. 2-1. Probably a bit of a drunken prediction. You might change it tomorrow. But how do you think it's going to go then? And we're going as well, which is despite what happened on Friday, I'm absolutely buzzing for it. I'm looking
forward to going. But I'm looking forward more to the experience of going.
I know.
Than I am of seeing Arsenal.
We'll probably, come. I don't know what time kickoff is. At 4:30, but come 7 o'clock, we'll probably be down a couple of beers in Horatio, quite depressed. But I am looking forward to it despite that. Yeah, like you say, the experience.
I'm looking forward to going. It'll be good to go back. I'm going to
back
be
to
optimistic.
our old seats as well. Sorry.
Yeah, back in the North Bank. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw, optimistically. That's what I want to happen.
Yeah.
But you can easily see Lukaku turning up.
This was going to ask you, how do you think he's going to do, and how do you think Ben White's going to fix? Obviously, he didn't have a great game. His debut wasn't great.
No.
Do you think he looked really nervous, didn't he? To me, he did. Anyway,
I didn't think he looked good.
But obviously, he is a good player, right?
He's a good player, but
do you not think?
I did see a lot of criticism saying he's generally not great in the air, which I haven't seen him play much previously when he was at Brighton, but he did lose I think almost 50% of his duels with
Yeah,
Tony, which for a centre back isn't good. And yeah, Lukaku is like just generally quite good in the air, quite strong, and he's probably he is a better striker and with the ball at his feet than someone like Tony is. So that is going to be a considerable problem. And the problem is that he's going to be paired with Marie, who also isn't looking very good at the moment.
Gabriel's not back then, no?
Gabriel is still out till September, I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, Partey's going to be out. The same 4 players are still going to be out. So I don't know how much better you can add Saka into the team.
Aubameyang and Lacazette are confirmed as out. Is that right?
That's what the rumours were.
Okay.
Which is why I think it was COVID, but who knows?
Yeah.
So if those same 4 players are out, it's going to be tough. I can't see how, unless we, you know what? The more I think about it, I think this team is more suited to playing a back 3 than we are to playing back 4. We could easily, Ben White is used to playing that right centre back in a 3. We can play Maitland-Niles at right wing back, where he's played well. We can play Saka at left wing back, Tierney at left centre back.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And
we did it a couple of years ago, whenever it was in the cup semi-final and then the final, right? Playing.
So I think something like that might actually be the best way for us to succeed. But it will mean that Arteta has to ditch his, philosophy on what he wants us to do.
Can you imagine if he goes back 3 on Sunday and then we lose? Like, it's almost like I'm trying every possible thing I can try and it's still not working.
Do you remember in the late days of Wenger when Wenger switched to a back 5?
Yeah, I remember that. It was like the first time ever.
I think it was against Swansea or something like that.
It was a random.
And we were playing really badly, and then maybe we won. I can't remember, but that was the first time in like 15 years that he'd changed, and it was desperation because he absolutely wanted to try something different, and all the philosophies went out the window. But the counterpoint is actually a lot of our players probably will be a bit more suited to that. But yeah, I'm going to go 1-1. But equally, I can see a 4-0 defeat as well.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, I'm going to go.
You predicted a loss, right? Did you the first game?
I predicted a draw.
Oh, okay.
Predicted a draw. I just wasn't confident, so I kind of went for a draw because I didn't want to say I thought we'd lose, to be honest. But yeah. Oh God, I don't really know. I think we'll have to agree with you. I think because I just don't know. I just don't know. Like I kind of had this thing in the back of my head that we beat them twice last year. I know it's a different team. That once was under Lampard, and they've obviously changed a lot since then. And the Lukaku factor, and also we've not started well. So it's you can't go back on what happened last season. But at the same time, I feel like the Emirates factor, and I think the fans will get behind the team, and I think that will spur the team on a little bit. So I think that could help us a lot. So, but they are a very good team.
We need to score first. If we are going to have any chance in this game, we absolutely have to score first. Did you see that stat of Arteta's performances when we go down
15 games, wasn't it? Or something, was it?
Yeah, 50. We haven't won a single game when we've gone behind. When we pretty much lose almost always.
Yeah, it was like 12 losses, 3 draws or something, and now that's obviously added to that after the Brentford game. Yeah.
So we have to score first.
Yeah, I'm going to go a draw as well. Yeah. I'll take a 0-0 to be honest, but I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, so I'll probably go 1-1 or 2-2. Let's say 1-1. 1-1. Obviously, you can tell that I have absolutely no confidence in that result happening. And look, mate, we were talking about this again on WhatsApp, so it'd be interesting to just quickly touch on it. So the next 6 games, the ones we talked about, how many points do you think we're getting from that? I said 10 to 11 points. I'm pretty optimistic that we'll win the games that we should win. So I'm saying basically, so it's obviously Chelsea at home, City away, Norwich at home, Burnley away, Spurs at home, Brighton away. So I've said 10 to 11. So I'm kind of thinking beat Norwich, beat Burnley, beat Brighton. So I'm kind of thinking we'll win the games that we should win, or possibly draw one of those games. But I feel like we might even though I've just said a draw, we might beat Chelsea, we might beat Spurs, and I'm assuming we lose to Chelsea, lose to City away.
That's like 13 points you predicted out.
No. So I'm saying kind of 10 to 11. So
Okay.
3 wins and a draw. 3 wins.
Anything less than 10 would be pretty much disaster, right? It would have meant we've lost 3 of those games, which would mean we'd probably lose to Chelsea, probably lose to City. I don't know. I think we'll beat Spurs, but I think we'll drop points to one of Brighton or Burnley.
Okay. Burnley away is probably the more likely one.
Yeah, it depends. But with this current squad, I'm not optimistic. Add 1 or 2 players in, it could just easily change. You look at, one example I go back to is you look at what Bruno Fernandes has done to Man United. And they were rubbish before he arrived. Well, not rubbish, but they'd spent a lot of money, but they just weren't clicking as a team. And he completely transformed them almost overnight, which so if we can find that one player to just make this whole thing click, we really could just transform ourselves. But I don't know who that player is. And even if we know who that player is, can we afford him? And even if we can afford him, would he want to come to us?
I mean, I'd caveat that. I know what you mean. I'd caveat that with they still got an 85 million pound, whatever he is. They're probably wrong on that figure. Central midfielder in terms of Paul Pogba. They've still got an 80 odd million pound centre back in there. They've still got, just quality everywhere. And not even just quality. They've spent a shitload. They've spent a shitload.
Yeah, but so have we, and we've got a week striker. We've got 75 million winger, 50 million pound centre back, 50 million pound midfielder.
I agree. But
we've got the pieces. I don't think our players are that bad anymore.
But mate, Maguire probably walks into our central defence. Pogba walks into our team. Being honest, right? Those players do. So it almost comes down to then we could have another hour-long conversation about our transfer policy and who we're actually spending the money on, But we haven't got time to do that now. But do you know what I mean? I agree with you. Bruno Fernandes has kind of, it's the spark. It's a spark for their team that's, kind of taken them to the next level. And now they've gone on with Sancho, with Varane, and they're building, and it's all good for them. But And
it took them a long time to get it right. They spent a lot of money, had a lot of misses. And
I guess they can afford to do it.
They can afford to do it. We can't. And we're almost getting that same journey that Man United have gone on, but our lows are a bit lower than they are, and our highs probably won't be as high.
Yeah. All right. Nice depressing note to end on. Cool. Well, we're obviously going on Sunday, so I guess if you're watching this and you follow us on socials, then keep an eye out, because I'm sure we'll be active on that. Nero will be present.
Indeed.
Not present for the podcast, but present for the matches. Raj won't be. He's at a wedding, so we'll abuse him for that later. But I guess we'll see everyone post Chelsea. Fingers crossed for a good result. Nice one, Aaron, and good chat. And
all right,
speak again soon.
See you soon. Bye.